After the simple if-else statement, the next type of if statement we want to look at is the complex if-else statement. And by complex, what we really mean is that we might have nested ifs inside other ifs. Let me kind of give you a diagram of what that's going to look like. We'll do that in a comment here. So you might have if and a relational expression, which I'm going to abbreviate. Then you might have another if inside the first if, like so. Then you could have another if inside that second if, and so on and so forth. And then if that's the case, you just have to keep clearing the inner ifs to move out a level and then clear those. So the important things are making sure your brackets are placed correctly and understanding how else's work. If you have a complex or nested if statement and you have an else, then the else statement, the else clause that you've written always goes with the most recent else. So in the example I'm showing you in the comments, let me finish it up here just a little bit. The else right here goes with this if. And that's why indenting your code is so important, because it's easy to see which else goes with which if. In this case, this else has to go with this if. It's the only way I can write it, but I need to write it that way because it's nested inside this if. But the else always goes with the most recent if right above it. Now, having said all that, I will say that writing if statements like this is really not very good style. It's confusing to the person reading your program. It's confusing to you as you try to write it. And there's a much better way to write nested if statements, and I'll show you that in the next lesson. Let's look at one example to just show what a nested if statement might look like. Let's say that I'm writing a program to keep track of grades on a test, and I'm only interested in A grades for whatever reason. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an integer variable grade to store the grade, and then I'm going to write a string variable letter grade to assign a letter grade to a numeric score. And here, like I said before, all I'm interested in are A grades. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for A pluses, A's, and A minuses only. It's not a very practical example, but it'll get my point across. So I need a scanner object because we're going to let the user input a score. Now we'll prompt the user to enter that score or a grade. Then we'll get the grade from the scanner object using nextInt. Now we're ready to classify the grade and turn it into a letter grade. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say if the grade is greater than or equal to 90. Now I could have also written that grade greater than 89. One of the things you have to learn about logical statements or relational expressions like this is that they can be written in several ways. So greater than or equal to 90 is the equivalent to greater than 89. So then I want to put an opening bracket here. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. That's going to follow me around. So let me copy and paste that back up into the top here. Move down to the next line. Now I'm going to drop down for the nested if. The first thing we have to check to see is if the grade's greater than or equal to 90, if it's an A anyway. If it's not an A, then the rest of this doesn't matter. Then if it's greater than 90, then we want to see if it's greater than or equal to 95. If so, then that signifies an A+. So we're going to write letter grade equals A+. Then we want to close off this if. Then we'll say if it's not 95, then did it fall in the A range? Remember, we have A+, A, and A-. So the A range would be 93 to 94. I picked that arbitrarily. So then we'll say letter grade equals A. Then we close off that, and then if it's not either one of these two, but it's greater than 90 or equal to 90, then it has to be just an A-. So we can have an else right here and set the value equal to A-. So letter grade is now equal to A-. Then I have to make sure I close off that else. Now what I want to do is I want to say, well, what if the grade wasn't greater than or equal to 90? Now I need an else to go with this if. So I bring it down on the same indentation level with the original if statement. Start a bracket, indent, and then we're just going to write out a message. Sorry, you didn't make an A. Okay? Close that off, and then that should do it. So again, before we compile and run this, look closely at my indentation. The indentation is what makes my program easy to read and understand. The compiler, of course, doesn't care. It just ignores white space anyway. All the compiler sees are the words or the tokens that I've typed in, as well as the marks of syntax such as semicolons and parentheses and things. So the white space only makes a difference to the person reading and reading or writing the program. So let's compile and run this program now. And I could fix this, but let's leave it here. I have an error, else without if. All right, so let's look back and see where we made a mistake. And this is perfectly good reasoning. I'm going to clear out this comment so I can see my nesting better. So I started my first level here. Then I started my second level here and then closed it. Started the next level here, closed it. Let's move this else up on the same line. This will make it a little bit easier to follow what I've done. Again, I don't have to do it this way, but this makes it easier to see where I've made mistakes. Okay, well, I see the mistake is right here, it looks like. Let's come back. Let's take this out. So we have else letter grade equals A minus. We didn't actually need, and one of the things you don't have to do, this is a good time to show you this. For single statement blocks, especially on the else, you don't need a closing parenthesis, and sometimes that will mess you up. So let's take that out. Let's get rid of all of our closing parentheses below. This if needs to be closed right here with the closing else, which again, I do not have to put in a block because it's only one line. System out, print line. Sorry, you didn't make an A. Period, close. All right, so down here at the very bottom, there we go. Close that out. And actually, that's not a really good place to put that because it's going to display no matter what else we do. So let's not put it there. Let's put it either here or here. Good thing we have a block for these. And this demonstrates what a block is good for. Or right here. Okay, let's save and compile again. So 97. All right, now you see there's the problem. And that's a problem with nested if statements. 97 holds for all the different grades. So that is one of the problems with using nested ifs. We could rewrite the logic to make this work, but what I'd rather do is show you in the next lesson how to fix this using something called the if-else if statement. And we're going to look at that next.